Welcome.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Thanks for your stamina as well, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. It's been quite a day. The Oslo Road boat ramp project is a want, not a need. Paving, expanding, dredging at this historic boat ramp is a want, not a need. It's been a little while for me, but I'm going to put on my planning and zoning hat here for just a few minutes and take a look at this from that perspective. And boat ramps are a kind of infrastructure and provided by the county for public use, and they're provided on the basis of having taxpayers' dollars. So they're like roads, they're like water, they're like sewer. And over many years, the county has done an excellent job with infrastructure. We've benefited from that enormously. Guided by County Administrator Joe Barrett and staff in community development, public works, utilities, county attorney's office, and many commissioners, you've all made sure that the county has achieved the state-determined levels of service for the different elements of infrastructure that we all depend on. And providing the recommended levels of service for each type of infrastructure always requires balancing the benefits against the costs. Now, how does that bear on the Oslo Road boat ramp? Now, according to the county's Manatee Protection Plan, and I won't cite the page number, DEP, Florida DEP, has a standard recommendation for the number of boat ramps, or lanes as they call them, per person in a geographic area. This is not rocket science, it's just their recommendation. And that recommended level of service is one boat lane per 10,000 residents. According to the comp plan, our 2030 comprehensive plan, which I think the last update was last year, Chapter 9 coastal management element, at the present time Indian River County has approximately one boat lane for every 5,823 residents. So as of last year, the county has about 1.72 boat lanes, has 1.72 times the number of boat lanes that would be the recommended level of service. And it's my belief that the county can't afford and shouldn't provide almost twice that the level of service that is recommended for that particular infrastructure element. The county would be unlikely to expand or enhance the capacities of roads if the trip counts were half of the level of service capacity that was demonstrated for a roadway. That would be viewed as unnecessary expenditure or a waste of taxpayer dollars. And so with respect to the Oslo Road boat ramp, I find it interesting and somewhat surprising that the county would be spending, I understand we're not talking about increasing the number of boat lanes. We're talking about spending a fairly large number of taxpayer dollars and not increasing capacity, which doesn't compute to me. Again, in my view, the project is a want, not a need. Now, there's something that I think we can all agree on, probably everybody in the room. We want a healthy lagoon. What we disagree about, we pretty much all know. There are a lot of details, and we've gone back and forth about that, about those. But another thing that we all know, that's a certainty, is, as Walter Tabachnik pointed out, earlier, gosh, in the morning, I think it was, that there's uncertainty about what we know. And that's as true for the proponents of this project as the opponents of the project. Uncertainty is just part and parcel of our knowledge about complex systems, like the lagoon. So, looking at this project, if we ask ourselves, what if we're wrong? If each of us asks ourselves, what if we're wrong? And the enviros who've been here, hanging in here all day, what if we're wrong? What's the result? And we get our way, and the project stops here. Well, there's going to be essentially no change down there. And maybe a healthier lagoon as a result of no change, maybe not. But we will be preserving the existing quality of life of our community in that area. What if the county's wrong? What's the result of that? Well, it could lead to loss of critical habitat, as we've heard, and seagrasses, fishes, possible harm to manatees. I suppose you could lengthen the list. From my perspective, I would think that would all add up to a somewhat sicker lagoon and a loss of a quality of life that we all treasure. So if we look at this project as an investment in infrastructure, which it surely is, it's a risky investment. And I think that point has been made by Commissioner Solari, with whom I'm in complete agreement and am astonished by that. But I'm happy to be so astonished.
I'm glad to see you coming around, David.
So what I would like to see is a county commission redirecting taxpayer dollars to safer investments in our infrastructure and a more prudent course of action with respect to the lagoon. And I think it's been said that leadership is really all about setting the right priorities. And this project is a want, not a need. I'd like to see you stop it now and redirect those dollars to investments that really can clearly enhance the health of the lagoon that we all treasure. That ends my prepared comments. I would, if there are questions regarding the discrepancies in seagrass measurements, I could make a couple of comments about that. If you're interested. The methodology that is used by state agencies and by virtually everybody in the state of Florida is taken from the world of grassland ecology. Rexford Dobenmeyer is the investigator who created the approach to measuring coverages in grasslands. That methodology was transferred whole cloth into attempts to quantify coverage in seagrass beds. And you typically lay out a transect, just a line, and then you drop a meter square, usually PVC pipe-made sampling grid that is divided up into 100 squares. And now the real puzzle is, you saw the video that Lang showed of the sparse seagrasses. And you look at that and you say, okay, there are some seagrasses in every one of those squares. So is that 100% coverage? But most of what I look at is sand. It's not seagrasses. So there's a mental trick that DP and St. John's and everybody uses, and you're not going to find this written down in the state-approved methodology. What people try to envision is collecting all those seagrasses into penny-sized circles and imagining, well, like how many of those, that would be 1%. And my point being, there is a very subjective operation that's in the middle of this supposedly quantitative methodology. Now in Australia they got away from, they only use video and camera shots from fixed distances and very controlled conditions. We can't do that in the lagoon because the visibility is so poor. But I guess by analogy what this operation is trying to do, 1%, let's say, this is like if you envision Indian River County as a rectangle, which it pretty much is, and the weatherman says there's a 20% chance of rain today. And you think, okay, well, does that mean that there's a 20% chance over 100% of this area, or is there 100% chance over 20% of the area and 0% everywhere else? And seagrass percentages are exactly like that. That 1% could be one little clump, or it could be dispersed. And so two people can go out into this, and it would be an almost certain thing. If two independent people who were not doing, went to the same site like Oslo Road and dropped quadrats, they might well come up with different estimates. And partly it's because the methodology really wasn't devised for seagrasses, it was devised for prairie ecosystems. Part of it has to do with this operation that has to be performed in the middle of it. And part of it is just individual differences. So when I have been out to the Oslo Road boat ramp area in the overall project area, I don't see 1%. But that's, I see a higher percentage typically when I'm out there, especially during the growing season. But good people can have differences about that because of their different training and different approach to the method. So that's all I have to say about seagrass methodology. I think that if I've muddied the waters, as it were, with respect to seagrass estimates, that may just be the way that it is. I think that visual images, although they're not numeric, they're not quantitative, are more accurate than some of these techniques that get used that really were not developed for the system. So, again, the project is a want, not a need, and to reiterate what other people have said, if it ain't broke, let's not fix it at the taxpayer's expense. Thank you for your time.